My name is Nicole Sherman, and for this assignment, the first event that I most vividly remember, I was about 8 years old, and I recalled seeing yellow ribbons. And these ribbons were tied on the trees of a few homes. And as I was driving to school with my mother, I asked her, "What are these ribbons?" And she had told me that we were at war.
Good evening. Just a few hours left now before the deadline for Iraq to get out of Kuwait. Midnight Eastern U.S. time. Efforts are fading fast. All sides are girding for war in the Middle East.
Saddam Hussein was given one last chance. Regrettably, the noon deadline passed without the agreement of the government of Iraq. I have therefore directed General Norman Schwarzkopf, in conjunction with coalition forces, to use all forces available, including ground forces, to eject the Iraqi army from Kuwait.
We're going to dump out of that piece by Gary Shepard at the moment and go back to him live on the telephone, for he has an up-to-date report. Gary.
Peter, I am looking directly west from our hotel now, and throughout the entire sky there are flashes of light. It appears to be some sort of anti-aircraft fire, a couple of flashes on the horizon now. Something is definitely underway here. Something is going on.
The war brought with it talk of nuclear war again for the first time in my lifetime, and the threat of chemical warfare.
Iraq is not in possession of nuclear weapons.
And in search of the technology?
لا أجيب عنها. I shall not answer that.
It comes to war, using chemical weapons. He used them before against Iran and against the Kurdish people of his own country. He told us it was like Hiroshima. He had to win.
So as the war continued on, other very tragic events would come to define my most impressionable years. Things like the Oklahoma City bombing by Timothy McVeigh and the Olympic Park bombing. And crazy cults were coming out in like Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gate cult. And the most tragic for me, being a high school student the same age, was the Columbine massacre. Unknowingly, all these things were preparation for what would become the darkest hour.
That looks like a second plane.
Not much to be said that hasn't already been said about 9/11. But the one thing that I remember vividly reminds me very much of that first experience, that first real world event that made me realize the world was much bigger than what I had originally thought. Those yellow ribbons. With 9/11, it wasn't yellow that I remember seeing. The colors I remember were red, white, and blue. And that was because all you could see were flags. They were on every place you can think of. They lined the streets. They hung from homes. They were over businesses. They were flying right on top of cars, trucks, having them put right into the back of their beds. Those two moments would become joined together very similarly. They affected one another, and they also had a very lasting effect on me. It taught me something that I've learned since, that we aren't divided by any boundaries. There are no country lines. There are no oceans. There's nothing that really separates us. And I view myself as a citizen of the world because of that. I understand that what we do, what we believe, how we react, how we respond, the choices that we make, all are things that affect each and every one of us. Concepts, emotions, beliefs, they aren't limited by distance in any kind of way. Things that happened in Columbine, in Colorado, affected even today's school system. We have lockdowns. Some schools don't allow backpacks. The events that occurred there transposed distance. And the same went for 9/11. During 9/11, people just like me who had no idea, maybe even where Afghanistan and Iraq were located on a map, and had no idea that there was any kind of animosity, became and fell victim to something they were completely unaware of, but was very real. And so I, again, consider myself a citizen of the world and believe that we all should make a life's mission of leaving a positive and lasting legacy.